Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
Everyone listening is well aware of Jimmy V's speech at the ESPYs, "Don't give up, don't ever give up." That was in 1993 as he was receiving the Arthur Ashe Courage Award. It was actually the first time that award was ever given out. And since then, there have been incredible recipients like Muhammad Ali, Pat Tillman received it, Nelson Mandela, Pat Summin, Robert Roberts, and it was just announced that this year at the ESPYs in a couple of weeks, the Arthur Ashe Courage Award will be awarded to Steve Gleason. To talk about that, we bring on Jeff Duncan, columnist for the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. Has been there for the entirety of Steve Gleason's run in New Orleans and joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. We really appreciate it, Jeff. How are you?
Doing good, Hunt. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Obviously, you wrote a book with Steve, A Life Imperfect, that details his life with ALS and finding peace and wisdom within a fragile existence. And you were covering the team when he was on the team, and now I've seen this entire journey. I'm curious your reaction when you got the news that he would be receiving this Arthur Ashe Courage Award.
Yeah, we're really excited for Steve. I mean, it's a well-deserved honor, obviously, and he's been up for this award a few times over the years, so it was nice to see ESPN finally recognize Steve and all he's done in this journey with ALS as a humanitarian above everything else. I mean, that's what this Arthur Ashe Award represents, kind of athletes that do work outside of the sport, that transcend sports. And I think what Steve has done in the ALS community and raising awareness and changing and impacting the lives of those that are stricken with the disease and allowing them to have hope and better purpose-filled lives really has been groundbreaking, and so it's nice to see him recognized.
Take me back to the diagnosis and what things were like early on. I think a lot of people are very much aware of Steve now. He's present at Saints games 2 or 3 times a year, incredibly present considering his current circumstance. But what do you recall, and what did he tell you as you were writing that book about the early months of that diagnosis that have to be really, really difficult?
Yeah, I tell you, that chapter in the book, chapter 11, is one of the more powerful chapters in A Life Impossible, because there's so much unknown and uncertainty. The disease is what they call a rule-out disease. In other words, there's not a medical test that you take that says you've got ALS. Instead, you test for a number of other things, and you rule out those possible diagnoses until you get to there's nothing left except it's ALS. So Steve was going through that battery of tests back in 2011. I mean, the first signs that something was off was he started getting muscle twitches, almost like spasms you would have in your arm or your thigh. That's usually one of the first signs, and he just thought it was related to his playing career in the NFL. And then slowly but surely, he started losing strength in his upper body. And that's when he went to the test. Then I can still remember running into him out in December of 2010 out at a restaurant in New Orleans. He and Michelle, when they first told me that they thought this is what it was, it was still shocking to hear those words from him. And I could hear the fear and the uncertainty in his voice that night. And he got the official diagnosis just a couple weeks later.
At what point do you think it went from fear and uncertainty and then to realization and probably a little bit of depression? I'm just guessing. And then at what point did this fierce fight and this intent come out?
It was pretty quickly. I mean, he wrote a letter to all of us in his inner circle the night of his diagnosis, January 5th, 2011. And we have that actual email in the book, and it's one of the more powerful parts of the book because you can feel the emotion, but yet you can also feel the resolve in him. And, he in his own self-deprecating way, and I guarantee you, anyone that watches the award ceremony, July 11th, the ESPY Awards, when he's on stage, he's going to have a speech, he will be self-deprecating. It's part of what makes Steve such a lovable, endearing person is he has a way of disarming people with his humor. He will have a joke guaranteed in that speech, just like he did the night that he wrote all of us, saying basically that this diagnosis derailed his plan to live to be 109 years old. He said probably not going to happen now, but that's I wouldn't doubt him even today that he's going to get there. That's just how he's wired.
I want to talk about his impact on the New Orleans area and the Saints organization as well, but I'd like to stop here for a second and talk about him, the family man, because he's continued to raise a family in the condition that he is. Can you speak to that part of his life?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, it's maybe it is his number one purpose in life right now, being a present father for Rivers and Gray, and being a loving husband to Michelle, his wife. I mean, to me, those are his main, I think, motivations to continue on this journey. He's now coming up on 13, actually it'll be 14 years with the diagnosis. Most ALS patients live 2 to 3 years, 5 years tops, because the disease is so relentless. Eventually it robs you of your ability to move completely and to be able to breathe, and most people choose to just let the disease take its course because it's a very difficult quality of life. And it's very expensive to care for an ALS patient, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So most people elect, to not carry on. But he's not most people, and he also is blessed. He knows that he has the resources to be able to do this. And I think another part of his resolve is other people with the disease. He knows that he is a beacon of hope for a lot of people with ALS. And I think he feels a little bit of a responsibility to kind of continue on with this mission.
Chatting with Jeff Duncan about Steve Gleason, who will be honored here in a couple of weeks with the ESPY for the Arthur Ashe Courage Award. You can read the book that Jeff's referencing, A Life Impossible, Living with ALS, Finding Peace and Wisdom Within a Fragile Existence. Steve Gleason and Jeff helped write that book with Steve. The Saints, you're around them all year, and if you go to the Dome, you can see the statue of the block punt right there on the concourse level outside the Dome. But what kind of a presence does Steve Gleason have within that organization day to day?
Well, he's become a legend, obviously, among the fans. He was a cult hero when he played, Hunt. I'm not sure if you remember that or not, but I mean, he was such a popular player. And, he likes to point out to me all the time, he thinks I've made him out to be almost like a mascot now instead of a very good player, because he was a special teams captain, and he was a great athlete. Just think about it this way. He started at Division I major college at Washington State for 3 years as a center fielder on the baseball team, and for 3 years as a linebacker. I mean, how many players do you know that can do that at that level? And he was really good at both sports. I mean, at one time he thought Major League Baseball was going to be his profession. And, during his tenure with the Saints, he was elected a team captain almost every year by his peers. And when Sean Payton came on, he was looking to pair the roster from players that had been in the previous regime, and quickly he realized Steve Gleason wasn't just going to be a player they kept, but he was going to be a leader on that 2006 team that ended up going to the NFC Championship game. And so he's still revered internally in the building. He still has a very strong presence out at the facility. He comes out a lot to practice. He holds his camps, his life skills camps, at the indoor facility. They just had one a week ago out there. So he's still heavily involved and always will be a presence at home games.
And last one, Jeff, your time so much appreciated here on this Thursday. It's difficult to ask, but can you put into words what he has meant for ALS awareness, maybe a dollar figure, or just some of the things that he has done to raise awareness and money for this awful disease?
Well, it's hard to really fathom the reach that he's had and the impact he's had. I can tell you, he helped found Answer ALS, which is now the largest collaborative organization in the world that's, working on trying to find a cure for that disease. But more importantly, I think he's changed people's lives and how they look at the disease. I think at one time, everyone looked at it as a death sentence. And, it is a terminal disease. There's no cure for it. But I think people now understand through Steve and the way he lives his life that you can still have a very purposeful life and still a productive life with this disease. It's not a death sentence. I think Stephen Hawking showed everyone that. He lived 4 decades with the disease and was one of the greatest physicists and minds in our generation. I think Steve is having that same kind of impact in his own way as a beacon of hope for people, and also improving their lives and pushing for modern technology that is affordable for people so they can continue to live these lives and not have to succumb to the disease, that it's not a death sentence. And, what's that worth? It's obviously priceless.
I've Googled the book, and I've got add to cart right here on my screen, but if someone wants to find A Life Impossible, where's the best place to go find it?
I tell people all the time, support the local booksellers wherever you're at. If you can get out and get one in the store, buy one from a local bookseller. But if you can't, you can find it anywhere online, at Amazon.com. It's available just about in every bookstore in the country. And I can't wait till July 11th. Hope everybody watch that award ceremony. I guarantee you Steve's speech is going to be incredibly compelling and incredibly powerful.
As is his entire story. It's been fantastic. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time to tell us about it, Jeff. Thanks.
Thanks for having me on, Hunt. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.